In today's ever-changing technological business environment, business owners need business machines that are multifunctional, can be integrated seamlessly with their company's existing infrastructure and internet connection, and are designed to deliver more productivity to work groups and departments. And with me today to discuss how your business can get all of this, and in many cases for less than what you thought you could, are Scott Brom and David Batten with Harris Business Machines. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Malia, for having us.
Now, you both have been with Harris Business Machines for quite some time. Scott, we'll start with you. How long have you been with Harris?
I've been with Harris about 10 years. Been in the industry since 95, so been in the industry totally for about 19 years.
Wow. So in the copy machine, you've seen a lot of changes then.
Oh, absolutely. Well, as me and David used to say, we used to use machines that just did speeds and feeds, and now they've got completely into everything, to a software server to be able to scan, print, fax, mobile printing, scanning. It's amazing the differences that we see.
All the things that we see. And it's really changed the way businesses operate on a daily basis. David, tell me a little bit about your background and how long you've been with Harris. You're the vice president of Harris Business Machines.
Scott and I both started with Harris about 10 years ago. So we've both been in the business a long time, but we've been with Harris 10 years. And I actually started in the business in 1990. And Scott and I started working together in 95, actually. So the business industry has changed dramatically. Like Scott said, we used to do just speeds and feeds, and now everything is print and mobile, scan to email and so forth. So it's just come a long way.
So y'all have both seen a lot going on. Now, Harris has been in business since 1990. If I do the math correctly, that's almost 25 years, about 23.
Troy and Dee Dee Harris started the company in March of 1990 in Panama City. They opened up an office in Pensacola, and that's when I kind of partnered with them. And Scott came on board, Pensacola, and Scott came on board, and then we opened up one in Fort Walton Beach and then Mobile.
So now you have 4 locations that serve the Panhandle and Southern Alabama, correct?
Correct.
You have Mobile, Pensacola, Fort Walton Beach, and Panama City.
Right.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what all services that you do offer, because one of your slogans is that you offer total office solutions now for today's businesses. Things are changing a lot. What all do you do, Scott?
We, like we had said earlier, the industry has changed just leaps and bounds in the last 10 or 15 years. And as a company, we've seen these changes, and we needed to react and become a company that could progressively continue to go into the future. And part of that was to be able to sell software as well as the copiers, because the copiers are now taking it in that direction, to have the ability to scan, to be able to fax, mobile printing, like I said earlier. And they've got this new technology to be able to go to the cloud, which is Google Docs and Microsoft SharePoint. So that's just opening up just many dimensions and many doors. And we continue to see the transition of the industry just even change even more over the next 5 or 10 years as well.
We'll talk a little bit more about all those things and the technology that's been happening in the business world in our next segment. But first I want to talk about a little bit about what separates Harris Business Machines from other dealers in the area. You're family owned and operated, and but you also deal pretty much exclusively with Canon and a couple of other manufacturers. Tell me a little bit about that, David.
Well, like I said, Scott and I both work for a corporate company, and we were really excited about getting back to a locally owned company. There's so many more things you can do locally owned. The decisions can be made locally. The dollars are put right back in the community. A lot of times, you know, after you buy a product or lease a product, the service is what you have to lean on after that. And, you know, a lot of the corporate companies with 800 numbers and managers coming and going and people coming and going, it's hard for a person that does a 4 or 5 year lease to wake up 4 or 5 years later and see the same person at a corporate company. The change is always happening. So that's one of the things we really bring to the table. Canon is the #1 product line out there. We handle that, and they are kind of unique because some of our competitors have to have dual lines to go from a small desktop machine all the way to production machine. Canon actually has from a small, you know, all the way from a small desktop machine all the way to production machine, they have a full line. Okay. We also do handle a wide line of printers and wide format equipment too with the OSE line.
Scott, one of the things that you mentioned to me earlier is that you have a unique approach to service, and I want to talk about that because you have 4 locations. We have some photographs that we're going to show the audience. You have 4 different locations, and you have a warehouse, and you have parts accessible to these servicemen out on the road every day, and women. all different locations. How does that technology that you use make a difference to the customer when it comes to service and keeping those business machines running on a daily basis?
I want to give a brief overview, and I'm going to let David go into a little more detail about it. But what we did as an industry, everybody has taken a look, all businesses, ways of being able to cut back, but still be able to provide the service that your customer wants. And one of the things is how can we work more efficiently, more effectively, and most importantly, cost effectively for our customer. And one of the things that we have utilized is the ability to be able to have a GPS type system to be aware of where each one of our technicians are at any given time during the day and exactly what are they doing. So when they're dispatched, we know exactly what kind of call they have, approximately how long it's going to take to that call to be repaired or replaced, and then have the ability for him to be redirected to another call that may have just come in that could possibly be an emergency. In fact, David's even got a little more detail than I do on that.
Yeah, you told me a story, David, when we were sitting down in our first meeting about how that makes a difference to a business owner who's got a breakdown of one of their machines.
Yeah, well, after the sale is made, the most important thing is when a customer has a service issue is getting the product up and running. And, Troy has done a fantastic job at that because that's his background. And what we've done is we've been able to put GPS devices, we have a software, in every one of our vehicles. And we can track that. So when a call comes in, typically how it's been done in the past and how competitors do this is they give a technician a territory, and as the calls come up in that territory, the technician goes and hits those calls. The way we do it is we're able for the calls to come in to be able to take the technicians, because we know exactly where they're at, and move them around accordingly to get to the calls quicker. And it actually there's a lot of other layers to it, but it even takes it a step further, because the last two service calls that when they call in for service, the last two service calls that they had on that machine, when it gets dispatched to the technician, he gets those service calls. So he can look at them and he can go, well, the last time we had a call out there, it was, the drum was going to need to be replaced very soon. So let me make sure I've got that part before I even go out there. Rather than someone just showing up going, well, it needs that, we'll go back to the office and get it, or we'll order it, or what have you.
And it'll be 2 or 3 more days.
2 or 3 more days. So it really makes the level of service really jump up from a time standpoint.
Sure.
And the other thing that we do, which is really, really neat, is when we go out and work on a machine, they log in what was done to the machine right then, okay, rather than bring it back to the office and put it in the system, so that if another technician had to go back out and fix the problem, he can see, through the software that we got, this is what's already been done to it. So.
Right. So that makes a huge difference with someone who is operating a business and they have this one huge machine that pretty much keeps their workflow intact. For a lot of companies, it totally halts your production when you don't have a business machine operative.
It gives us the ability to be able to supply a response time of about an average of an hour and a half throughout from Pascagoula, Mississippi to Tallahassee, Florida.
Wow, that's impressive. Gentlemen, we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break.
You're watching WFBD Blab Television, bringing you local programming covering the Gulf Coast region, now available in high definition. We'd like to thank you for watching and encourage you to stay tuned for more local TV with local personality, here only on Blab TV.
Have you been denied Social Security disability benefits? Are you unable to work because of an injury or illness? Are you ready to receive the benefits you deserve? My name is Brett Figodsky. There are many Social Security disability attorneys. At Levin Papantonio, we use our years of experience to represent you. Whether you've been denied benefits or would like to come in for a free consultation, call me today at 850-435-7134 or toll free at 888-435-7001.
And welcome back. I'm with Scott Brom and David Batten of Harris Business Machines, and we're talking about what makes Harris stand out in the industry as one of the local leaders in this industry of business machines. And we were talking about service before the break and some of the ways you uniquely handle that. Scott, when we were on commercial break, you mentioned that your service technicians actually have iPhones that tracks their last few calls. Explain that.
Exactly. What happens is one of the drawbacks is the fact fact, you'll get an error code, and there might be multiple reasons for the error code. So when the technician gets a call, they're immediately made aware that if it's a callback and exactly what has been done on the machine on the previous calls. So the hope is that gives us the ability to effectively repair the machine the first time we're there. In fact, as a company, we're averaging probably about 83-86% first time show up fix rate.
Wow.
And what that basically means, the first time we show up with the right part, with the right ability to fix the machine the first time.
Right on time.
Yeah.
And that means less downtime for you folks out there who own businesses. And that's hugely important. Hugely important.
Exactly.
I cannot emphasize that enough. And I want to give you a 1-800 number if you're watching the show and you're interested in giving the folks at Harris Business Machines a call. Call 1-800-769-1531. We'll be talking a little bit later about how you can schedule your free audit. Give us a call right now if you want. David, you were also mentioning some other technology out there with regard to service.
Well, right before the break, we were kind of talking about, being able to move these calls around and position these calls. In the past, before we were able to get this software in place, like I said, a call might come in and there would be one person working on a machine at Garden Street and another person on Cervantes, so we would just automatically put the other person in the queue.
Right.
But what you couldn't see was that there was a large machine that went down and there was a PM being done on it. It would take a while for that person to get over there. Now we have the ability with this software to say, oh, well, geez, we've got a guy finishing up a call on 9 Mile Road and he can be in here in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And so it just allows us the ability to, kind of like peel the banana back another layer and dig in and go, oh, okay,
sure.
Here's how we can get you the best service, the quickest, the fastest.
So just knowing that you have 2 service reps or 2 service techs close in proximity does not guarantee that that second person is going to be able to address the issue any quicker than the one who might be 20 or 30 minutes away.
Exactly.
Is that it in a nutshell?
Plus, they can also address, what's an emergency call. If you got a customer who's down, or if you got a customer who may have a little bit of an issue like poor copy quality, then you're going to give this one a precedence. So you're going to allow the technician that's next available to go to a down call, so they can evaluate the calls based on priority.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Where has technology taken us? And I know, Scott, this is kind of your baby. You love that technology and everything. Everyone has a smartphone. I don't. I have a Droid still. But smartphones, Droids, they all do so many things. And I think our phones do more than our business machines do. But now, that's not the case.
Exactly.
You have your technology on the business machine side is catching up with everything else, making everything flow together seamlessly.
Yeah.
What's available out there?
Well, what they have seen in the industry is that everybody has got the idea that you're going to have a paperless office, and the industry is continually, and the technology is continually trying to move it in that direction. The copier at this point, as much as a software server as it is something to make copies or to print. We thought it was exciting 10 years ago for the machine to go just from making copies to be able to print. Now you have the ability to be able to scan documents to send it to the cloud, mobile printing on an iPad or a Droid or a Samsung, but just have the ability to be able to do multiple things that are just integrating mobile offices. And someone like me and you that are out in the field a lot, we have the ability to walk into an office to be able to print from an iPad or a phone, and
send it back to our office and print it.
Exactly. It's amazing what you can do. And the cloud and the Microsoft SharePoint gives you the ability to share lots of information over vast amounts of space with the least amount of cost and effectively, basically almost instantaneously.
And so you're doing all of this through the business machine and not your personal computer that's sitting at your desk per se.
Well, not necessarily. You're utilizing the machine as the server. You're using the machine as the launching point. You're using everything at that point, and the machine is just going to be the device, the focal point, whereas you'll be able to do it from the iPad to launch it through the machine or from your desktop computer, and like I said, even your smartphone, and to be able to walk into an office that's smartphone compatible and have the ability to scan or print from that smartphone.
Wow, that's great technology for a lot of businesses, especially for folks like us. I'm in television, you guys are in sales, you're out on the road all the time, and you're not hardly at your desks.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Now,
exactly.
I want to talk about the Canon products because that's a real big line. We touched on that a little bit in the very beginning of the show. You also only use Canon genuine parts on your service calls, and that's huge, David. You mentioned that to me earlier.
Well, I mean, you can buy aftermarket drums and rollers and so forth, but you're not going to get the same usage, yields, and uptime. And that's the whole thing that you're looking for. You're wanting the least amount of downtime. And especially when everything we do today, so many of the products utilize color. And when you get into color, if you use Canon genuine toner, you're guaranteed that you're going to get the same quality that came out of the machine when you first delivered it as a year later. When you start getting to aftermarket toners, you cannot guarantee the same quality. So there are a lot of other dealers that use aftermarket toner and drums and so forth, but we choose not to because we want to make sure that you get the same product. You know, if you did a 4-year lease on the last month as you did the first month that you got it from us. And so the only way to kind of guarantee that is to make sure that we do use Canon genuine parts and toner. So.
And on that same note, you have parts, and do you carry the parts in all of those 4 locations? You warehouse the parts?
Actually, the technicians have what they call top priority parts in their vehicles, so they have the ability to respond to everyday break and fix calls. But yes, we do have parts, supplies, consumables at each one of our locations.
And that certainly does help you serve this Panhandle area and the southern Alabama area very well. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You're watching WFBD Blab Television, bringing you local programming covering the Gulf Coast region, now available in high definition. We'd like to thank you for watching and encourage you to stay tuned for more local TV with local personality, here only on Blab TV.
Have you been denied Social Security disability benefits? Are you unable to work because of an injury or illness? Are you ready to receive the benefits you deserve? My name is Brett Figodsky. There are many Social Security disability attorneys. At Levin Papantonio, we use our years of experience to represent you. Whether you've been denied benefits or would like to come in for a free consultation, call me today at 850-435-7134 or toll free at 888-435-7001.
And welcome back. Before our break, we were talking about toner and how important that is, and we're also talking about locations, and those two things tie beautifully together because what happens, David, on a daily basis in the business machine industry?
Well, without fail, someone will run out of toner.
Exactly.
And it always happens when they need it most. But we typically do a lot of maintenance contracts, and with the maintenance contracts, it's a full service contract. It includes toner. And we ask everyone, when you put the last tube in, please call and order another one, and it doesn't cost anything to get the tube of toner when you have a maintenance contract, but they'll forget, and it'll be at the worst time, you know. But always
Murphy's Law.
That's one of the reasons that, you know, having a local company with offices locally, supplying the offices with parts and toner locally, we can run, you know, we do it weekly. It happens all the time. We'll have to run a tube of toner out to someone who's forgotten, and we've had to put the last tube in. They forgot to order a tube, and we'll go ahead and ship them a tube. That's not a problem, but we have emergency toners here locally, and that's huge. That's huge. Like I said, getting back to the corporate companies, when the corporate companies, that's one of the areas they start tightening down on, is they quit putting toner in the smaller locations, and but when a customer runs out, they've got to wait a couple days. That's just not acceptable.
Absolutely. So. And it shuts your business down, really, for 2 days or more. What is Canon's Imagerunner? You know, we were kind of briefly talking about that at the break. What is that?
Canon, as a company, has probably been the industry leader for at least the last 22 years for technology. They hold the most patents, have created the most industry-setting standards for the equipment. Back in '97, they came out with the Imagerunner line. It was the first affordable digital product on the market. Canon was the first one to hit the industry with it. In '97, that product was introduced. It was a copier printer and had the ability to scan. Cutting edge technology at the time, and Canon has continued with that ability for the last 10 or 15 years. It has now got into the Imagerunner Advanced, and the advanced part of it has moved into the software that we were talking about earlier. The mobile printing, cloud printing, cloud scanning, and those type type thing. So it's transitioned to even more of a cutting-edge technology today.
And it's award-winning technology.
Yes, it's been the #1 selling product now for, I think, over about 22 years.
Wow.
It sets the industry standard. They were the first manufacturer to develop fax machines on the copier. They were the first manufacturer to develop scanning, multiple boards. Many of the companies at the time when they first came out with digital, they had individual boards. So if you had a board that went down, the entire system went down, whereas Canon, they are each independent. So if the fax machine breaks, the printing and scanning still has the ability.
Work.
Yeah,
and
it sure does.
And that's huge in keeping your day-to-day
It is.
operations functional. Okay, so I own a business and I've been watching the show, and I'm interested in having Harris Business Machines come out and take a look at my business needs. What's the first step in an audit?
Many people today are always looking at some way, how can we save money? They're looking at trying to reduce their cost of their lease, their cost of their service, and at some point there's only so low that you can go. One of the areas that we have seen in the industry is the desktop printer. The standard printer that HP, Epson, Lexmark provides, the average cost per page on black and white is somewhere between 4 and 9 cents a page, and that's black and white. They base this off of certain parameters, but the bottom line is it's 4 to 9 cents a page. So what we do is we have a software package that gives us the ability to come in, load this software onto your network, and it will actually track how much printing that you're doing in your business. With that, we have the ability to do a cost study and give you some ideas of exactly what your printing cost is in your office. And this is a completely free audit. It's some great information that we can provide you, and it gives you the ability to put your arms around the cost that most people just don't know.
Now, folks, let me address this from a personal level. Here at the TV station, we have probably at our desks 2 or 3 different kinds of printers, because at various times, like any other business, one of us needs a printer that does one thing, one needs something else, and we all have different ink toners, those ink cartridges. Those little guys get expensive.
They do.
And I guess what you're saying is that you can come in and calculate how much we're spending on all of those individual ink cartridges and how much it's costing us per page for the month. And then you can compare what you can do per page. Is that how it works?
Exactly. We have a company that we've already done this cost study with. They were averaging somewhere between $1,500 to $1,700 a month just in toner cost.
Wow.
This doesn't cost about repairs, replacing the equipment, or anything else. It was just toner cost. We did an audit with them, identified what the cost was, and we provided some more cost-effective printers that we had to offer, and we were able to cut their cost about $800 to $900 a month just in saving printing cost.
David, what would you say for a small business owner out there who thought they couldn't afford a company like Harris Business Machines? A lot of folks think they're just too small. What are the parameters there?
That's not the case at all. Most people today lease equipment, and we have this happen. Well, we just signed a lease, or we've just been in a lease. I don't think we can do anything. Allow us the opportunity to come in and take a look, because we've got a lot of different programs out there with leasing companies and with Canon, to where if it's a competitive situation where they don't already have the business, they'll come in and buy out certain leases and things like that, and at least take a free look, because you'll be surprised. Like Scott was talking about, this stuff changes so rapidly. We just need the opportunity to come in and look and see what you're doing. And the worst case scenario is you get a free evaluation.
In 3 years, technology has changed so much. So I can see an example where you have had a business who signed with XYZ Business Machine Company 3 years ago. They bought the equipment or they leased it, and now that equipment already is obsolete. And they're in a 5-year contract, but they are like 2.5, 3 years into it. Is that a feasible situation where you guys could come in, do an audit and evaluation, and even save them money? Is that possible?
Yeah, we have many programs that Canon provides us as a manufacturer. They have trade-in dollars they give us. We got certain leverages with our leasing funding sources that we have the ability to negotiate early payoffs in certain situations. David, what do you normally see as far as a time frame on a lease that we can...
The rule of thumb is if we can, every lease has a depreciation schedule, and so it's going to depend on what type of product they're looking to put in. If you've got a 30 page per minute product and you want to go to a 60 and you're expecting to keep the cost the same,
that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. Okay.
Right.
But if you've got, you want a comparable product, but maybe you would like it to do some other functions, fax or scan that you don't have today, we've been able to, with the technology change, and we've been able to change those leases out in midstream, ship the other equipment back to the leasing company, no money out of pocket, and lower their cost. It happens every day. But like I said, what we need to do is the opportunity to get in and do a evaluation, of their needs and what they're spending and their volume. And so once we get our arms around that,
and tie in the savings that we can offer with the printers.
Oh, absolutely.
It's pretty amazing some of the things we have the ability to do.
Absolutely.
Well, expound on that, Scott.
Well, in fact, some of the organizations we've gone in and we've taken a look at their copying costs, and as we've done an audit, we've also tied in some printing cost savings. And when you do that, you really have the ability to have a significant impact on the customer's bottom line. We have the ability to take spending that they're not even under the understanding that they're even doing. We even talked to one organization where they had employees that were buying toner cartridges with a credit card, and it was a cost that they were just turning in a receipt, and it was never tracked. They had not a clue that they were spending this money.
They were even spending that money.
Yeah, and so we were able to help them get their arms around that.
So having all of that housed under one contract and a service contract, and having the equipment either purchased or leased through you, helps them keep a track of what they're doing on an annual basis.
And this audit software will track both copying, printing, all their needs. If there's any kind of errors, running out of toner, drums going bad, it'll give you a pre-warning, so it gives us the ability to be more effective on service as well.
Now, do you do that for your customers every year, where you give them some sort of an analysis of what they're using versus how they might be able to save money in the future?
Quarterly.
Yeah. Wow, it's that important. Now, very quickly, what would someone have to do to give you a phone call and schedule their free initial audit or an existing contractual audit?
Just a phone call, and we'll set an appointment up, and we'll go through their needs and evaluate their options, and you would be surprised. There's a lot of opportunities out there today that people are they're so busy they just kind of look over. But like Scott said, tying it in with a printer, there's a good opportunity to save you some money and put a more productive product in place.
And most important, it gives you great information. It doesn't cost you a dime. The audit is completely free. It's a service that we'll provide as a local company.
Totally free. So if you've been watching today's show and you're interested in scheduling for your free audit, pick up the phone and call 1-800-769-1531. You can also get more information by going to harrisbusinessmachines.com. I'm Malia Allen, and thank you so much for joining us.